Okay. Lesson 26, reflexes. And these are the topics that we are going to cover here. Definition of reflex, parts and functions, spinal and cranial reflexes, somatic and visceral one, stretch reflex, flexor reflex, crossed extensor, and some definition on contralateral, ipsilateral, and reciprocal inhibition. First, look at this definition. Protective, programmed, automatic responses to stimuli. So if I break this down, reflexes are protective. Okay. It is programmed. That means you don't have to think about it. It's already automatically programmed. If the eyes are touched, there will be blink. If the muscles are stretched, there will be inhibition. So automatic responses to stimuli, that means stimulus is given and reflexes will be there, which is programmed. First, to know that three parts of reflex arc. A sequence of steps in the reflex between stimulus and response. We have this central nervous system. So look at this arc from left to right. Number one, the peripheral nervous system detects and delivers stimulus to central nervous system. This is the sensory or afferent part that carries the information to the central nervous system. And we know that CNS can be brain and spinal cord. After integration, the motor division, the peripheral nervous system, delivers this motor response from the CNS to effectors. So afferent, CNS, efferent. We need to know this arc. Three parts of reflex arc. Neural integration occurs in central nervous system between these sensory and motor responses. Right? Now, if we classify reflexes, we find these types classified by the number of synapses and types of organs. Starting with these two words, monosynaptic versus polysynaptic. If the reflexes contain one synapse, okay, we know synapse is the junction between the axons or junction between the nerve and muscle. In this case, definitely it will be between the neurons. So one synapse, that will be monosynaptic reflexes. Multiple synapses, we call it polysynaptic reflexes. According to the type of organs, it can be visceral reflexes that innervate internal organs, or somatic reflexes involving somatic sensory and motor neurons. Think about the word monosynaptic, okay? One synapse. So one example will help you to understand these things. So look at this picture to get the idea about these monosynaptic reflexes. If you are holding an empty glass with your arm, your external force stretches the muscle, and muscle is in taut position, is holding that glass to overcome these things in a certain position. Somebody is pouring water into your glasses. So that will increase the force on your hand. On your arm, the force will be more. And this will send information to your brain because your muscle is stretched. Who is detecting that? Muscle spindles. Inside the muscle, we have these receptors, muscle spindles that detect the stretch, and primary, secondary afferent transmits these things to the spinal cord. You see that blue line, sensitivity. In the spinal cord, this sensory afferent synapse on the alpha motor neurons and trigger an action potential. You see There is only one synapse between the blue and red line. And what happens next, that this motor neuron, to be a specific alpha motor neuron, it stimulates the muscle to contract and returns to its optimal length. So when the force is applied, muscle will be stretched, and that information goes to spinal cord. Spinal cord is going to send this another nerve or motor nerve to the muscle, making it contracted so that you are not going to spill the water. You're holding this glass of water at the same place. So this type of reflex is happening. We don't have to worry. We don't have to think about it. That, okay, should I do this way or that way? Your spinal cord can take care of this thing. It's a programmed behavior, and that is reflex. And in this case, it is monosynaptic because there will be only one synapse. In monosynaptic reflexes, sensory neurons also synapse the interneurons to inhibit antagonistic muscle. So the second example that I'm going to discuss now is called reciprocal inhibition. Have a look into this first, then I'll tell you what is going on. You see, it shows two muscles, biceps and triceps. When the muscle spindle in the biceps is stimulated, say some pressure, some force applied, that will send this signal to the spinal cord going through the posterior horn. And there is an interneuron. You see in the left side, the black color is called inhibitory interneuron. So the green line is the excitatory. It stimulates the biceps muscle to contract, but another nerve going to the triceps will antagonize this thing. Think about it. At one side, you have biceps in your arm. On the other side, you have triceps. So if the biceps is contracting, triceps should be relaxing. Because if they don't, there'll be a problem. That is called reciprocal inhibition. Reciprocal means at one side, it is contracting, the other side, it will be relaxing. So this type of inhibition, it relaxes the muscle of one side of the joint to accommodate the contraction of a muscle on the other side. So this is the second example, second type of reflexes. Third type of reflex, very, very essential, and it's very important for everyone to know the components, how does it work. Maybe you can try to draw these things for better understanding. I'm sure in your lab, you had this experiment done, which is the patellar or knee jerk reflex. When we produce this patellar reflex, it is produced by tapping the patellar tendon with a reflex hammer. And this tendon is between this patella and the tibial bone. So when we tap this part, it stretches quadriceps to extend knee. And this is what happens. Starting from the left side. We are tapping this tendon, patellar tendon. This muscle, quadriceps muscle, the thigh, the three vastus and the rectus femoris, they are going to be stretched. And when they are stretching, the muscle spindle is sensing this stretch, sensing this sensation, this stimulus is going to be traveled through the afferent neuron to the spinal cord. That's the second component. So muscle spindle is the first component, afferent neuron, second component. And here in the spinal cord, they are having interneurons between two neurons. That is the third component. Fourth component will be the efferent neurons. The afferent going to the spinal cord, efferent coming back, and while they're coming back, one of the nerve on the quadriceps will make it contract, while the other going to the hamstring muscles, those muscles in the back of the thigh, semimembranosus, tendinosus, and biceps femoris, they are going to be relaxing because of the reciprocal inhibition. And at the end, lower leg is going to move forward. Like you see here, that is the thing we expect. And that actually happens when we do it properly. So for the knee jerk reflex, also known as patellar reflex, we need to know those 5 components. Either you can learn it by drawing this whole thing, or just put them in the list, those 5 components, which are the muscle spindle, number 2, afferent neuron, 3, interneuron, 4, efferent neuron, and 5, the effector muscles. Next reflex is called Golgi tendon reflex, which is also a polysynaptic. And this type of reflex is going to protect our muscles and tendons from damage. It does not cause muscle to contract, rather to relax. So just have a look into this. What is going on? The quadriceps muscle strongly contracts, okay? And there are some sensory organs here called Golgi tendon organs. When it is activated, the afferent fiber muscles will synapse in the interneurons within the spinal cord. Efferent impulses to the antagonist muscle, causing it to contract, and effector muscle impulses to the muscle with a stretch tendon are damped, that will relax. So what is going on? It is actually the opposite thing that we have learned earlier. This time, muscles will relax. The reason is, if they don't, that can cause muscle to be damaged. Think about it. I can pull 20 pounds with my right arm. But if I try to get 50 pounds, and if I try too much, that can damage my muscle and tendons, because it is something that muscles cannot do. In that case, rather than doing the contraction, muscles will relax. And why? Because this is going to give up to protect itself. At some point, it cannot go beyond that limit. So this is the example of Golgi tendon reflex. The spindle fiber, Golgi tendon organs, these are some sensors inside the muscles that can start working on different levels of muscle stretch. Next one is interesting. Cross extension reflex. When there is a flexion going on at one side, extension will be happening on the other side. So both will happen at the same time. Let's have a look into this picture. You were walking on a floor and there was a small tack. The moment your foot is on that tack, you felt pain, right? That feeling suddenly is going to stimulate your nerves in the skin. So when stimulated, the pain receptor is called nociceptive. Nociceptives are the pain receptors. They will send this afferent transmit to the spinal cord. You see that number 1 on the left side. So from your bottom of the foot, the sole, The nerves are sending these impulses to the spinal cord. That is step one. From there, motor neurons will stimulate. The second thing, you see the hip flexors of the limb receiving the painful stimulus so that you can remove your leg, remove your foot. So this is what happens when we are in trouble, like any kind of pain or something, suddenly we withdraw ourselves. It can be arms, legs, we withdraw these things. But this is not all. Something else. Number three, you see, the right leg is moved away, but the left leg, the hip extensors of that side will be triggered to contract so that that area, the left leg will be used for maintaining your balance. Otherwise, we will fall down. Think about it. Right leg is removed from the painful stimulus, but left leg is taking care. It remains on the ground solidly in maintaining balance of the foot. And how is that happening? It is happening at the same time when the right leg is flexed, left leg will be extended. So this is why it is called crossed extension reflex. These are the words we use for reflexes. Number one is contralateral. Contra means opposite. So opposite side of the body. Ipsilateral, same side. And reciprocal inhibition, that means one part of the muscle is contracting at one side of the joint, muscle of the other side will be relaxing. Now, cranial nerve reflexes. The earlier things that we have discussed, those were spinal nerve reflexes, right? We talked about those names, all are spinal nerves reflexes. These two that will be discussed now, they are cranial nerve reflexes, which is gag reflex and corneal blink reflexes. Glossopharyngeal nerve. So that's number 9. Out of 12 cranial nerves, the glossopharyngeal nerve, it supplies our pharynx, I mean throat, back of the tongue and throat. Those are the it supplies those areas. And if it is stimulated, this is stimulus brought to the medullary nucleus, I mean, you know, the lower part of the brain, shared by glossopharyngeal and vagus nerve, and that will elicit a gagging sound and action. So, gagging reflex or gag reflex, and this nerve, glossopharyngeal nerve, will be involved. The last reflex is the corneal blink reflex. I'm looking at the screen right now, but a small fly or a dust or some sort of other things I did not see. It touched my cornea, cornea of the eye. And this will trigger when the cornea is touched by any kind of object, this will stimulate the trigeminal nerve. That is the fifth cranial nerve. Trigeminal nerve will be stimulated and integrated by pons to contract orbicularis muscle. Orbicularis oculi muscles, you know, those are the muscles around the eyes. They will be contracting just to protect it from any kind of damage that can be damaging to the cornea. So you see all these reflexes we are talking about, they are protective and programmed things. So in this chapter, it's a short one, chapter 26, we discussed reflexes, reflex arc, components of the reflexes, types, and how do they work. especially for the knee jerk reflex. We all must know the components, and also for the other reflexes, at least what is going on about these type of reflexes.